we will go over the agenda as was sent out in the email, and there is a participatory portion to tonight. So make sure that you have some input for the topics which we sent out, but we'll get back to those as we go. If you have questions while people are talking, you can feel free to use the chat feature. And if you weren't here, we do want you to state your camp name. So rename yourself rename yourself with your 3 dots in your video so that we can see what camp you are from as well, so that we can track that, because we track those things for grant reporting, and we track those things to try and get more money. And we like to be able to say that we do good work. So, great. So name yourself and your camp in your name would be great, and help Janice with her tracking, because she's following on the sheet. We have a Google spreadsheet that tracks all of this. Let's go around and do a quick intro, just who you are and where you're from, because I know we have at least one old-time United Church person here that is back and new. But if you can just pop your camera on, say your name and where you're from, and we will do a popcorn style where you choose the next person. So my name is Joe Richards. I'm the Executive Director at Pierce Williams, and I am located in Iona, Ontario. Rick, go ahead. It's funny because Rick is looking directly at my screen on the thing. It was awesome. Oh, you're going to need to unmute, Rick. We're only 2 years into the pandemic, so.
That's right. Rick Borkamp. I'm the Executive Director here at Lambton Center. We're located just outside of Sarnia on the south shore of Lake Huron. And I'll go along to Kathy Douglas.
I am Kathy Douglas. I'm regional staff for Western Ontario Waterways, Horseshoe Falls, and Antler River Watershed. And in those regions, we have 11 camps, and I'm hopefully supporting some of the work they do. Janice.
Hi, I'm Janice. I'm the Executive Director of Camp Kidston in Nova Scotia, and also currently volunteering as a coordinator with OMI as well. And I will pass it on to Kylie.
Hi, I'm Kylie. I'm the Executive Director for Lumsden Beach Camp, which is just half an hour north of Regina, Saskatchewan. Yeah. Erin Miles.
Hi, I'm Erin. I am the Executive Director of Camp Big Canoe, and some of you I may have met previously when I was directing at Ganadawe, which was also United Church Camp. It was down by Paris, and this camp is in Bracebridge, Ontario, so I'm kind of gone like that. And I am going to pass this over to Lorraine.
Hey, hello, it's Lorraine Powell, and I am the treasurer for Mackenzie Camp in Enderby, British Columbia. And I've been hanging out in this camp for a long time, and I know where Lumsden is because I grew up close to there. I invite, I've forgotten who is gone, Kathy.
Kathy already went. Choose someone else.
Okay, Daylin.
I'm Daylin with Mackenzie Camp as well. I'm just a volunteer on the board. Lori.
I'm Lori Purley from Camp Winchesigan, Fredericton, New Brunswick, and our camp is about 75 kilometers at Chipman. And pass to Alex.
Hi, my name's Alex Corbett. I am the Assistant Director and Marketing Coordinator for Camp Abbey, located just 10 minutes from the Confederation Bridge on PEI. Sorry, let's go with Daylin.
Oops, I'd gone already, so someone else.
Steve?
Hello, I'm Steve. I'm from Camp Lorraine. I'm the chair of the board of the Camp Lorraine. Camp Loren's on the Ottawa River, just outside Deep River. I'm on my 4th day of COVID, so my voice is a little crackly or whatever. So, it's been 4 days of isolation and in my basement in the corner. So, anyways, I'm not sure. I know Joanne hasn't gone, so I'll throw it over to Joanne.
Hi, I'm Joanne Hartnett. I'm the executive director at Camp Lorraine in Deep River, Ontario, on the Ottawa River. And we'll go with Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm the day camp director at Five Oaks. We started a day camp during the pandemic and really excited for year number 3. I'll pass it to Jill.
I'm Jill, and I'm executive director at Camp Chemo Key, and we're in Komoka. It's about 15 minutes west of London. And I will pass it to, I guess, Steph. You're it.
Hi, I'm Steph. I use she, her pronouns. I am the director of Rainbow Camp. And what else are we supposed to say? Sorry,
that's all good. Yeah,
that's it.
You were just a little late, Toes. That's fine.
All right.
You're going to pass it off to Bronwyn.
Bronwyn.
Hi, I'm Bronwyn. I'm the chair for the board of directors for Camp Furcombe, which is on Gambier Island in British Columbia.
Awesome. And that is everybody. I don't think we missed anyone. I was writing them down and making sure we tracked. Our other two coordinators, Vicky and Claire could not be with us tonight, but they sent their regrets. I'm going to give you a brief update. I was in Texas a few weeks ago, actually a month ago now, because it was at the last meeting that I wasn't here. In Texas was a meeting of the Outdoor Ministries Connection Council, and that is a group that put on the Great Gathering in 2019, the fall of 2019. And for those who are new, the OMC Council represents 6 different denominations. That number might be 5. So it's the United Church of Canada, the United Church of Christ, the United Methodist Outdoor Ministries, the Presbyterian Camp and Conference Association, the Lutheran Outdoor Ministries, and the Episcopalian Camps and Conference Association. And so they all send people to in the past, prior to COVID, to an in-person meeting once a year. Since COVID has hit, OMI Council has been meeting online 2 to 3 times, once a quarter is what they aim for. And the Texas meeting was their first in-person meeting since the pandemic, because we canceled a meeting that was supposed to take place in LA March 14 through something in 2020. I have been representing the United Church of Canada upon the request of many years ago. Bev Og attended the first of these, and Bev Og is our national office person who has something to do with camping. There's not many of those left, so we should protect the people we have. And so I've attended numerous meetings, and the goal there would be to get another person who can also represent the United Church Canada in those meetings, but that's a discussion for a later time. OMC met and talked about, this was our first gathering since the Great Gathering had happened, and so OMC talked about the Great Gathering and the idea of putting on another conference. So if you're unaware, the Great Gathering was those 5 or 6 denominations bringing together 550 people from across North America to an outdoor ministries event at Lake Junaluska in North Carolina. The Great Gathering was a success. There was money left over, and there was a deal where that money gets divvied back out to the associations based on the participation. And so that happened. So the United Church did get money back from that through our participation. The Great Gathering was discussed, and the idea of hosting another Great Gathering was put on hold because it's right after the pandemic and people don't know where we're going. The OMC has a few different things that they're doing stateside, but not I'm not sure how they fit with us as Canadians. So in Canada, there's really only two associations. There's the United Church of Canada, which we are, the Outdoor Ministries Institute, and there is the Presbyterian Camps and Conference Association, the PCCCA, which has 13 Presbyterian camps in Canada. In the States, they're doing a variety of different trainings, which are all available to us to attend when we are safe to travel again. The one thing that holds interest to me, especially with camps when camps have executive directors leave, is the idea of an interim directors training. Interim directors training is a group of retired camping executive directors who then take additional training, and which means that if a camp all of a sudden loses an executive director due to some reason, that an interim director, it would be easy for the board of directors to go to a list and find some people on that list who could fill the spot for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, while the board did a more thorough look at what they needed to replace, right? And so I think there's a huge benefit to something like that. I'm just not sure that we have enough full-time positions in Canada to justify training 10 people on that. But it's an interesting thing. In interim directors training, there will be one in September or October. I'll make sure to get that up online. And it'll take place in the States. And that was originally a project of the Lutheran Outdoor Ministries and the Presbyterian Camps and Conference Association. So the Great Gathering Interim Directors Training. We talked about, at the meeting, we talked about the idea of a shared resource library amongst all outdoor ministries. So not denomination specific, but specific enough for outdoor ministries, and then denominations could have their own section in it. The challenge with, if anybody here has ever tried to operate a resource library online for things, lots of people say they want it and then it never gets used, because what we tend to end up doing is emailing someone we know will have the answer or the document and going from there. So at this moment in time, the United Methodists and the Presbyterians are working together to create some sort of shared resource library, and if that opens up, we will let you know. But here for OMI, where I tend to see the most results is when you contact someone in this group to ask the question or get the document and whatnot. So the shared resource library was discussed. There was a big discussion about how associations generate income to be an association. And this is the struggle that we as the Outdoor Ministries Institute will have. We are in year 2 of a 3-year granting cycle. So another $25,000 arrived for this year in January. And then next year, as long as we do our reporting, we should get the final $25,000. What the church, the new ministries is where this money is coming from. What the church would like us to do is to become self-sufficient. That's a bit more difficult for us. All of those outdoor ministry associations I've mentioned, except for the United Church of Christ, actually have a paid full-time executive director. Some of those, it makes sense. The United Methodists have like 200 and some odd sites, and the PCCCA has 150 sites, and the Episcopalians got theirs through, they have more sites, but they also used a grant. And the Lutheran Outdoor Ministries had a grant of like $250,000 to spread over 7 years. What the Edge Network and the United Church New Ministries has said is that they know that it takes longer than 3 years to become self-sufficient, to find resources and money to help. But they also only give you 3 years. Carla from the Edge Network said that they know that it takes 7 to 8 years to hit that number. And so right now, in case the Outdoor Ministries Institute is run out of The head office is here at Pierce Williams. We have coordinators in all areas except the far north in Canada. The 4 coordinators are spread from East Coast to West Coast to Saskatchewan and then Ontario. And that's very purposeful that we didn't have like 3 people from Ontario be the coordinators for something like this. It needs to be spread across the country. They talked in their a lot of their memberships have gone away from forcing camps to pay to purely taking donations. And they were pleasantly surprised by camps and individuals who believe so much in camping that they redirected donations from other parts of the church ministry to camping to support something like Outdoor Ministries. So these are the things we talked about in a lot of hours of, there were more things, and there's minutes, and I missed a meeting last Friday due to some family hospital visits, but so those executives, this is the other struggle I have, is that they meet quarterly, but once again, it's their full-time job to be on those meetings. They're not running another site as part of their thing. So that was the Texas trip. I did not catch COVID in Texas. I was very cautious about that, and made it back, and I was fine. I did have talks with, so moving on to another part of that Texas meeting, I met with Joel Winship, and Joel is the executive director of the Presbyterian Camps Church Conference, PCCA, Presbyterian Church Camps and Conference Association. We are teaming up with the PCCA to offer our OMI gathering this November, in Kansas City, Missouri. And so we will be, the conference itself will be at a place called the Heartland Center, which somebody could put up in the chat. The Heartland Center is is like 20 minutes from the airport in Kansas City. And we have funds to get people to Kansas City and pay for their conference, the basic conference registration. And by get people to Kansas City, one of the discussions I wanted to have tonight was this idea of how do we, and I believe I'm using this term correctly, equitably split travel funds so that people from across the country feel like they can travel to an event like this. Because if you're in Toronto or London, right, it's easier to get to an airport. So if you're in a major center, it's easier to get to an airport. If you're in Regina, apparently, Kylie, it's hard to get out of, it's not hard to get out of Regina, it's expensive to get out of Regina. And if you're in the Okotoks, you're just screwed. Like, you're not going anywhere because you need to get out of the mountains before you go anywhere else. So I would love to hear ideas. Janice, I'm not sure if you did the spreadsheet or was that of flights. I was looking at that earlier today.
That was Vicky.
So Vicky has done up flights from various places to Kansas City. So Vancouver, Victoria, Calgary is all around $500. Edmonton, Regina, Winnipeg is around $600. Toronto's $475. Montreal's $500. Halifax is $550, and St. John's is a smooth $775. There's a group of us who fly out of. I fly out of Detroit when I can. It's $310 US, but then you have to drive to the airport too. But it's also a 12-hour drive to Kansas City from my house. So, yeah, Jill's like, I am not doing that again. Not doing the bus. But can somebody talk to me about, is equitable the right term that we're using? Anybody is allowed to speak.
How are you defining equitable?
That if it costs $775 to fly from one place and $475 to fly from another, you get a percentage of that cost, of that travel cost. It's not going to be, I don't want to get into people sending bills to Joe. That just seems like a big, a big no-jo. And I just made that up. Just made that up. And I think that, so equitable would be that you feel like you're so if we're paying the base conference, so the conferences in the States are set up differently in the sense that you have 3 things you're covering. 1 being the food plan, 2 being the conference itself, and they split these up, and then 3 being the accommodations. And so if we choose as OMI to say we can accommodate 25 people to come to this, if we have more, we'll look for funds for that. And we'll pay the base accommodation, and then we'll pay the food and the conference fee, plus, depending on your locale, a percentage of your travel. I'm not sure if that's equitable. What is a cartoon? Equitable, fair, shared, equity, I don't know. Yeah. Alex, how would you fly to Kansas City from PEI?
I'm guessing I'd have to go through Toronto first. That's typically where we go for most things.
It's like Charlottetown to Toronto and then on from there.
Yeah. Or Montreal.
And that's the same for small airports. Like anybody in the Ottawa area would fly somewhere first, right? You would fly to Toronto and then.
The same with the Okanagan. We'd have to get to either Calgary or Vancouver first.
And where do you fly out of for that day, Lynn?
Kelowna Airport.
Okay. Here is what I need from the people who live in the places that I don't live, like the Okanagan, like PEI. If you can find a flight to Kansas City and send me the info, we can add it to our spreadsheet. We're looking for an average cost. So I'm not sure when Vicky did this flight thing up, but figuring out zones seems to be the easiest way to do it. Just to say, if you're flying from, and this is where the Okanagan would come in, Dalen, right? Like the idea that that's not a Calgary or a Vancouver zone. That's its own Sasquatch area in that part of the country that it's hard to get in and out of. The dates in November are, it's a great question. I put it in my calendar so my wife can see it already.
Yeah, because often the dates will affect the cost if it's, near the Remembrance Day weekend, et cetera, et cetera.
I have the 13th to the 18th, Joe, but I'm not
I believe
sure.
you are correct. Yep, Sunday the 13th to Friday the 18th. Now, I know that some of you actually have other jobs and camp isn't your full-time job. The conference is during the week. It's not on a weekend. And Bronwyn brings up a great point that, right, for someone to miss work as well as attend the conference, it doesn't matter if we're giving the same funds to different people. Now, what Amy Crawford did say from the National Church is that we can also apply for funds. You as individuals can apply for funds from some education thing. I don't know what it is called because I never actually use it. Kathy, I'm not sure if you know what.
Yeah, the individual learning funds, and you pay a third, and the church pays a third, and your camp would pay a third. Yeah. But I don't know how that would work. Joe, this is just a thought I have. We had trouble getting, a lot of people to go to the Great Gathering. It was not easy for lots of reasons. The fact that so many of you folks aren't full-time at that time of the year to be able to get away. But why couldn't you just say that the OMI would pay the flight? No matter, so whatever the cost is, like the flight is the issue, everything else is the same.
No, that's not, because that's not that is not equitable. That is because if my flight costs $310 and OMI covers my $310,
Yeah.
and your flight costs $750,
Mhm.
well, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, that takes away, I don't know. That's what I would say, that makes it equitable no matter where you live. You can't help the cost of your flight.
And does the National Church have a travel person still?
We did. I haven't traveled anywhere. I don't know.
Joe, we in Alberta, when I was there, we were in a very large area of northern Alberta for flights or for driving, and we used to take the amount of mileage, which is mileage for every teacher that went to this conference that we would go to, and that amount was divided amongst the money that we had as a total, so it would be the mileage. And then that was how much we would get. So if you were close, you would get this amount, but if you were further away, you would get more funds because of travel. It was a little complicated, but it was actually adequate, made it so that we were equal in whatever way. That's how we made it work out. So.
Huh. Yeah, because it's not always just flights, right? There's mileage that has to be added on to that as well. And so it's yeah. It's an interesting conundrum. What we're trying to do is so there's two reasons there's a few reasons we're teaming up versus trying to do our own thing. Doing our own thing, we will never get the speakers nor the presentations nor the community that we get built in with a different denominations conference. The United Church of Canada's last big conference would be where we actually had a ton of workshop speakers and whatnot, would have been 2013 in Pringle. Was it hosted at Pringle? I think it was hosted at Pringle in 2013. I didn't go because I was on my way to a sabbatical in Australia. Yeah, I like the ideas. I'm just not sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody feels that it's fair. Any other comments before we move on to other stuff?
What if, I mean, I don't know how many, what your number is that you're trying to make equitable, because that would then change what I'm about to say. But if OMI covered one person from each camp and then a percentage that you would apply for, if you wanted a second or third or a board member or whatever after that. But everybody gets their one person, and then depending on, then funds could be kind of split up.
Yeah, I think we need to hold. The idea, right, is that we have 50 camps, and the chances of all 50 camps sending one person to the conference are slim to none, and Slim just left town. And so I think what we have to do is hold for at least give every camp the chance up to a certain date to apply and attend, and then if there's funds left, we can deal with percentage for second people. The reality is that I'm waiting. We hosted a small gathering think camp at Pierce Williams last fall before Omicron came our way, and what I think that we're going to recover. The hope is that we're recovering any money that was spent on Think Camp to also put towards next year. Still waiting on that. There's a bit of some backroom stuff going on with somebody at the National Church, but that would give us more funds to spend. In the quick math, for 20 people to fly from a variety of different places, at an average cost of 562 Canadian, it was $11,000 just for flights, and then you're talking about the conference on top of that. And our goal would be to spend somewhere in the vicinity of 20 to 25,000 if we can, if the need arises, right? So, okay. So I have copied both Alex's flights from PEI and Bronwyn's comments into the spreadsheet to deal with later. And I think that, yeah, I think that's good. So we'll keep you up to date on that as we go. It is now 8:04. We're going to do a quick share, and this can be either things to share with the list that we sent out about topics. Share any thoughts on these topics so we can get information out to people and learn which ones need an entire session to themselves. So there are approximately 8 topics here. What I'm looking for is either ideas or questions you have that need to be answered so that we can get full presentations ready or guest speakers to come to one of our monthly calls and talk fully about something. So does anyone, thoughts on insurance and risk management? Questions or thoughts? What do you want to know? What do you need to know? What can you share?
I think that one actually came from someone on our board, and I'm not sure if other folks are in the same situation, but Hub has not renewed our insurance yet this year. And so we're sort of in this process of, I don't know, just interested to know what other folks are doing, if other folks are having the same issues with Hub, if anyone has switched to someone else and had better luck. Obviously, it varies greatly based on location, but would be interested to know.
Well, here at Lambton Center, we're also insured through Hub, and ours hasn't come through yet. I've been trying to get some insurance certificates for events that I'll be participating in, and I got those. And they keep saying, well, we're working on it. We're just running a little behind, but we will get that out to you. So I have no idea what the rates are going to look like.
I've gotten our renewal from the Hub because I was really pushing them. And they'll say, oh, there was technology problems. And then someone left and came back a few weeks later and and I know these things happen, especially in COVID and working from home. But I kind of said I have a business to run and a board to account to, and I need this information now. And we did have an increase. They had said to expect about a 15% and increase, and it wasn't that far off of it. But there's still not, I'm still waiting to have a couple things sorted out with our insurance, like the address on it was Manessatung's address on our policy and things like that. So I had these problems a few years ago before COVID, and I had started looking at Nancy Brown, and then just the process is time consuming to fill out the insurance documents and things. In the end, it's something that someone else said they'd take over for me, and it's still out there. But I know other people are with Ecclesiastes and Nancy Brown. And the Hub's policy is still just a church policy revised for camps. Like you have your boiler, machinery, and manse included in your policy, even if you don't have one, which we don't. So it's frustrating with the Hub right now, but it's a time-consuming process to switch insurers too. So it's a tough thing to do unless you have someone on your board or someone associated with your camp who's really knowledgeable in that area and speaks the language and knows who to reach out to, is what I'm finding.
Yeah, the other thing I would recommend, we are with Ecclesiasticals, we were with Hub for many years, and these aren't new problems to Hub. Like the timing of this is not, they can't blame it on COVID. They would come with insurance papers in March, some normal years, and I'd be like, well, that's not great for anybody. I would highly recommend a broker who can do all the research for you for new insurance. So we have always had a broker here. We've switched brokers once here at Pierce Williams. We use Reith and Associates in St. Thomas, Ontario. And we are with Ecclesiastical. Now, Ecclesiastical is an insurance possibility for camps, but relies on a local church. At the time we joined, relied on a local United Church, a church we're affiliated with, also being an ecclesiastical member. And so for us, it was St. Paul's United Church in Elmer, Ontario was ecclesiastical with so we didn't have to contact St. Paul's. We just had to know that they were, and it was weird, but it is what it is. Our insurance went up as well, but.
Camp Big Canoe is with Nancy Brown, and from what I can tell, has been with Nancy Brown for quite a long time. Having only been there 2 weeks, though, I can't tell you when anything's due, if we got it. And I'm assuming that yes, I do know that they accommodate rental inquiries for us. So there's sometimes when they have rentals at the camp, the group is required to provide additional insurance, and they sometimes cannot get it through their own coverage. And so we have a contact at Nancy Brown who has apparently been really good at being like, yes, we can cover this. This is what it is. This is how much it is. Here they go. And has been really good at getting back. So.
And just so everyone's aware, when we say Nancy Brown, we mean the Canadian Camping Association Insurance Program. So that's a CCA program. All of you, if you're members of your provincial association, are automatically members of the Canadian Camping Association. And so you have that ability to go with that program.
It's Lorraine Powell here from McKenzie Camp in Enderby, British Columbia, and we're with Marsh and Ecclesiastical. And we had our estimate for our insurance last November already. But I guess one of the questions we've been asking is the camp is owned by the United Church of Canada, but we cover all the costs. So, anyway.
So is the camp owned by the United Church, or is it owned by you and reverts to the United Church if you cease to exist?
Well, as I understand it, it's owned by the United Church of Canada, and we cover everything, the liability and everything. So anyhow, and it's gone up. So I don't know whether, anyhow, that's where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that we have different ownership models across the country because a lot of Southwestern Ontario camps own their own site. So the deed is in the name of Pierce Williams United Church Christian Center. And then if you begin the operations of winding down or cease to exist, it reverts back to the United Church of Canada at that moment. But many camps, so Big Canoe and Sparrow Lake and the Toronto camps are owned by someone else, yet they still carry all of the camps are responsible for all that insurance as well. So that's not unusual per se. Okay, I think that's great. We have a list of insurance stuff. Somebody had mentioned creating online staff training, and I'm not sure what that would. What are people looking for?
I saw that topic, and I think it would be of great interest. In the past, we've used Online Essentials, that program out of the States, that for some training. This was probably, I'd say, at least 5 years ago, and they had great modules, and it was really effective. But we didn't get a great buy-in with the kids, with the staff. But in terms of this year, the way our program is scheduled, we are in a crunch to get in enough staff training. And given the experience that the kids have had in the last 2 years with Zoom, we're really looking at trying to develop something in terms of to cover some of that, you know, the papery stuff that we have to cover in staff training, to do those in some online Zoom modules in the evenings or whatever. So, you know, I'd be really interested in getting together or whatever, trying to brainstorm how that's going to look, and not having to, you know, start by do it myself, just by me.
Is there anyone else who would like to explore that? And we can put everyone in touch. I know that we're planning on in-person training for all of our stuff this year, because
Yeah.
these people need it.
Sorry, Joanne from Camp Lorraine. We'd be very interested. We're trying to develop, just because we recruit from such a large area, to get somebody up to our trainings, we'd rather spend that time concentrating on not the paperwork and the rules and the regulations and stuff like that. So that's what we're trying to do ahead of time, so that when they actually come to camp for all their training, we can really concentrate on what they really need.
I am no expert in this, so.
I, having been out of the field for a number of years and coming back in, I've been doing a lot of online stuff. I also looked at the online experts, which seem to have some good modules. I think you have to be very specific about which ones you're choosing in that case. And so that would be an issue, and it's per person usage. So cost wise, that may not be as effective as if you were doing it in a group setting where you were just using one and projecting. But there's a few other things like Go Camp Pro. They have website, they have blogs. I have not watched videos yet off them. I think they are videoed as well, but I've just been listening to the actual blogs, which have been good. There have been a few through the American Camping Association as well, where there's some good links on there. So it is a little bit of digging, but I mean, even just Googling staff training, summer camp staff training, you get some really interesting resources. And I've come across some everywhere from things on behavior to things on inclusion and, making your camp, I'm going to call it rainbow camp friendly, but making it more inclusive. So you kind of have a whole range of things, and from a lot of really good keynote speakers of names I've recognized from 20 and 30 years ago as well, not just current ones.
I'm not sure what the next action is on that. I know that if you want to connect about that, and you can feel comfortable dropping your email into the chat, and then people can reach out to talk to you. I think it's really important, and one of the things I always recommend is getting rid of as many of the small things, and don't do them at training, have them do them somewhere else. So some camps still believe that they have to offer first aid training to their camp staff, which takes up a ton of time for training. You don't. Just let them go get it on their own. Well, that's how I feel. So I also like tax forms and things like that. We just have them do it by themselves and then fix it if it's not an issue. And but there is a wide. It would be interesting. What are the sessions? Type out in the sessions in the chat, what are the sessions that we all do that we could actually share? So is it like behavior management? Is it, because that's what we need. We need to know from this group, from our camps, what sessions we're all doing in a similar vein that doesn't need to, so that we don't need to recreate the wheel. And that might be province specific based on things like child abuse and sexual abuse and health and safety training. But I don't know I don't know what our big sessions are that we could share, even if we found someone to do it for us. So if you can think of one, put it in the side. I'm going to move on to the next one, which is faith formation at camp. Somebody tell me what we're talking about here. Faith formation at camp. Does anyone here use a curriculum at their camp that they purchase? Is that a yes or a no, Lori?
I know for us here at Lambton Center, we've had our Christian education person that we've hired pretty much creates the program each year. And I've often thought it might be handy if there was some kind of curriculum that was sort of appropriate for our camps. But it does seem like we're sort of starting from scratch each year.
We've had conversation recently about this. I would say more over the past 3 to 9 months with our program committee. And we used to have a staff person who was considered our values, Christian values, community values programmer. And in 2018, that role was taken away. And then everything kind of just floundered in 2019. And then, of course, COVID affected the past 2 years. So we're reevaluating what that should look like. And it's been some interesting discussions. And one of the things that we are made aware of is not just within our board of directors, but also within researching the other camps in the area and across Canada, actually. There's a lot of diversity in how faith formation is presented at camp. And so one of the big questions we always have is when we look at a resource that seems to be the best industry standard, which I refer to the OMI survey from 2020, which is sort of the best thing to see what all our camps across Canada are doing when it comes to various data points, including faith formation and the relationship with the church at camp. What we know that there is the industry standard, the best practice, but then it's just such a wide range. And so that is something that we have people who on our board who say, well, we should be doing more of what Ryerson is doing, which Ryerson is very different than what, let's say, Minnesota is doing when it comes to faith formation. And so it's going to be an ongoing discussion, I think. And so I'm interested in knowing what other people are doing specifically. Like, one of our board members said, can we do the faith formation if we're addressing the eight principles that are in the United Church Faith Formation Handbook, not even mention the Bible or God, and are we still meeting our obligation for faith formation if we're doing that one extreme? Or do we have to be saying praise the Lord and Jesus and thank God as part of our staff dialogue and camp culture in order to meet what the United Church requires us to do? And so that's what we're playing with at our camp at times right now.
We've used different programs that have been available with curriculums from within the United Church. Our regional office has had different ones that have been available. We've also looked at vacational Bible school programs and taking it. This year, we're sort of in our 2 main overnight ones, and in between the other ones, the smaller ones that we're having, will be on the case, which is sort of a forensic science, but yet has the parables stories that'll be part of it. So it's a matter of taking that and going with some ideas that they go from there, and it'll be interesting how we all do the different things, but yet have it, a base of it will be what the curriculum is based on, which is 3 parable stories.
What I've found over the years is that I got rid of a Christian education person many, many years ago and just took on doing chapel myself because that was how important I felt it was, and they weren't getting the experience that I thought that they could. There are a variety for the past 3 or 4 years prior to the pandemic. We were paying a Baptist lady from Texas to write our curriculum for us. 2 weeks tailored directly to Pierce Williams with a jump start or a morning meditation, a chapel, a vespers, a cabin devos. It just fits what we do, and all of those are interconnected, and it's based off a theme. She's no longer doing that after the pandemic. and so so I still have 2020's curriculum that she gave us for free at no cost because she'd already written it prior to the pandemic. So I'm trying to use that. I know the East Coast had curriculums each year, and my question is, what happened? Like, are those somewhere as a resource for other camps to be able to use? Meaning that can we recycle past curriculums? Because if they're new to camps, and are they, because those were funded through the church, right? I'm just not sure where they ended up as a group of, as a thing of information.
You're talking east. Which part of east are you talking about?
I'm pretty sure it was all of the camps who would attend camp stuff normally.
We've had Inside Out the last couple years, but I think there was, I don't know, I haven't been around long enough, quite honestly, but there was a year where somebody wrote like a science one for us, and all of that still exists. I'm not sure where, but I'm sure we could dig it out and share it.
It's the regional office.
Okay.
Yeah, with Catherine.
So I'm not sure how many. That's the only one that I know of off the top of my head. I'm not sure how many other ones there are.
Well, I spoke at Camp Stuff in 2008, and they were doing curriculum as far back as then. Yep. And the regional office or the conference was taking on that responsibility for all the camps. But faith formation, I'm not sure, Kathy, if you have anything you want to add to. Faith formation has been a long time conversation from the national church down. They often feel like camps aren't doing enough, is the sort of the feeling you get as a camp person. I haven't heard that in the past few years because they have to focus on their own survival. So I'm not sure what your thoughts are, Kathy, as the faith formation minister.
Just not across the whole church for sure. Just it's so different, and I'm just reflecting on the fact that it is from camps that when a young person decides to go into ministry, it's because of their experience at camp. So there are things happening there that are faith formation. Lots of people go into ministry later in life, but the ones who are young and choose to go into it right out from early youngish ages, it's often an experience at camp. So you guys are doing something that leads people into a choice to be in the church, to be a Christian, to be whatever it is that the United Church is looking for, I think, for creating faith experiences. Some churches have clergy or clergy-ish people that come on site each week that do stuff like probably what Joe was saying when he leads chapel. That's one way. I would be really keen to know about putting together some kind of a curriculum, but how do you do that? You're all so different, and you have different ways of creating your programs. And who creates? It happens all the time. It happens in all your songs. It happens in all the meals. It's a constant thing. So this is a challenge I've always felt with the Inside Out curriculum, is that they give you a giant binder and then you have to pick and choose what you want out of the binder. And that's where paying someone to write our curriculum made a lot of sense to us, because it's literally a 2-week program that we literally just print into a book and pass it out to staff members. And we follow it during staff training so they understand what's going on. But it is individual for each camp, and that's the challenge we're going to have. We need to cut the conversation short there. There's a few other things that we didn't get to tonight. Best practices for COVID-19, attracting multicultural groups to camp, cultural appropriation and reconciliation, property management, and available grants and tips and tricks. The one thing, so we will bring up some of those next month. Next month, we have a guest speaker, Glenn Svednicka, who is the executive director of the United Church Ministries out of Wisconsin.
So they have a unique setup where they were 3 individual camps and now they're managed under one board with 1 executive director and 3 site directors, I believe is how it's set up. Glenn will correct me next week or next month when he comes. I first met Glenn through the Outdoor Ministries connection, and it's an interesting thing that we should at least look at as United Church Camps to try and figure out. Bev O did want to share a message about standards visits. So if you are expecting a standards visit this year from the United Church of Canada, you will not get one this year. We're revamping those standards, and they standards visits for the United Church of Canada would start again next year in 2023, and it's going to be regional. So it will somehow come from your region to do the standards visit to check the that is versus having people fly all over the country to do it from 1 visitor or 2 visitors. So that is still being worked on, and the standards themselves are being trimmed down because our many provincial standards are covered already, and we don't want to double. We don't want to double them. So I think, thank you to Aaron and Daylin and everybody who's typed in the sidebar. I'm trying to track all of those things as well. I think that is it for the evening, friends. That's great. Janice, anything to say before we go? Did I miss anything?
That all sounds good.
That's awesome. I will try and get this recording up so you can pass it on to your friends. I know that I didn't get last month's, but I'll try and do that as well. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a great night.